Hello, hello. Great to see you again, and welcome back to another installment of MSP Success Spotlight. I'm your host, Ryan Ruff, and boy, do we have a great episode on tap for you guys today. As you know, each episode, we bring a new MSP on to talk about their services, in the IT world, in the cybersecurity world, get their industry insights, as well as learn some of those differentiating factors. What separates them really from the pack and allows them to provide a top-tier quality service for their clients. And then, of course, to maintain those relationships with clients, build new ones over time, all the good stuff. We're going to be getting into it today with Mr. Paul Tracey. That's the owner and president of Innovative Technologies up in Malta, New York, or should I say the upstate region really of New York. Paul's company serves that region, as well as a few other places. We're going to get into that specifically, but Paul's company in Innovative Technology spends a lot of time and a heavy focus here on cybersecurity. A lot to unpack within this conversation. So let's go ahead and bring Paul on to get the conversation rolling today. Paul, how are you doing today? Good to see you.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Happy to have you. Happy to have you with us. Paul, I'd love to give our audience a little bit of, some further background on just you, yourself, your personal, your professional journey to Innovative Technologies. Walk me through what got you involved in this space to begin with, and really what led you to starting and becoming the owner here of Innovative Technologies.
Well, my journey was kind of a long one. So back in 2003, I had a shoulder injury that put me out of work. And so I went back to school for networking, finished that, got into the enterprise IT world, first managing help desk, and then moving on into hospital enterprise IT. And it was really that experience that drove me to start the business. Just looking at the situation in enterprise IT and then realizing what that situation looked like for small businesses. And that was not a great picture.
Gotcha. So when you're looking at these small businesses and going through that IT work, so that was kind of a motivating factor to get Innovative Technologies off the ground. What's it been like for you being your own business owner, going through that process of building the company to what it is today? Walk me through what that's been like for you.
It's definitely been a journey. So we started in 2012. And as we all know, the cybersecurity conversation has escalated since then. It really wasn't outside of compliance in medical and finance, really wasn't a conversation that people were having. So the first few years was a struggle in educating potential clients and prospects about what the risks actually are and what damage can be done.
Sure. And Paul, walk me through some of the clients that you work with. Do you guys have a specific, industry that you guys, put a lot of your work towards, or do your clients range across a variety of industries?
There's really a range. We tend to focus in medical because we do offer a industry leading really compliance package with our services. But we certainly don't exclude anyone that wants to make their network secure, right? This is a kind of, we're all in it together. And I think we look at it a little differently because it is a community situation. All of our businesses are connected, and small businesses run our economy. So, this is a group effort from everyone.
Sure. And I've got to imagine, working on such an intimate level with a small business, it's got to give you a sense of self-satisfaction, to go in, maybe streamline some cybersecurity systems within a given company and work, hand in hand with a business owner. How does that feel at the end of the day for you to know that you're really making a difference for yet another small business, that is the driving force behind our economy?
Yeah, we see it continually. It's really my greatest source of satisfaction. When you go in and redo someone's IT infrastructure and give them security and compliance standards, you're not just affecting their security, you're affecting the business as a whole. So process and procedures, efficiency, underutilization of technology, certainly waste in some areas. It's really a change for the entire business, and it's a change for the better because it supplies information that CEOs and management might not necessarily be aware of without those things in place.
Sure, sure. Now I'd love to get kind of into really the meat and potatoes of what you guys do. Cybersecurity as a whole. Walk me through just, I guess, a high level overview on just why, in your opinion, cybersecurity is so important in today's day and age. I know you had mentioned that when you guys got started in 2012, obviously this cybersecurity conversation has grown drastically over the last, almost 10 years now. Walk me through why this is so important for any company, any business, anything overall these days.
Well, from a business standpoint, I'm a small business owner. We always want to have as much information about our business as we possibly can. And so there's definitely that aspect from a management standpoint. But when it really comes to security, the amount of breaches, the amount of data that we've seen just exploited, put it on the dark web, ransoms paid, it really becomes a community issue. So everyone's connected. We notice with the Colonial Pipeline, when you hit a supply chain, you're affecting every business that runs off of that. In the case of gas, obviously, we're affecting a lot of people. But I think it's really a community effort that not only your business, but making sure that the vendors you deal with are following the same protocols. I think we all remember Target getting hacked, and that was actually done by an HVAC technician from another company. So,
yeah, I mean, it's obviously a super pertinent topic these days, and there's a big compliance element within cybersecurity as well, whether it be HIPAA or, the Family Educational Rights Privacy Act. Even New York State has their own SHIELD Act. Walk me through, what the compliance elements look like here in this cybersecurity space that you deal with.
So compliance, big difference between compliance and security is compliance is really all of the processes and procedures and so forth that go along with maintaining it. And security is more the technical aspect. What we have seen is after the European Union created their GDPR law, California quickly followed that. New York State has done that, where we're located with the New York State SHIELD Act. And so really what those compliances are laws that are put into place to make sure that not only you have the technical procedures and systems in place, but you're also handling employee attestations. You're doing regular assessments to see where your vulnerabilities are, and you have a continuity plan or a recovery plan to address those issues and to move along cybersecurity maturity, which is really the long-term conversation. Is this cybersecurity fight is probably never going to be over. It's an evolving situation. And so really what compliance does is make sure that you are evolving your technology and security along with what's considered best in class or, services.
Sure. I mean, preemptive measures is the name of the game here when it comes to, compliance or the security side of things. Now, I'd like to get into the security side of things that you guys specifically do with your clients when you're called upon. First and foremost, I would imagine in just purely educating a given company's employees. That employee education, I bet, is probably a pretty big role in what you guys do when you work with a small business. Talk to me a little bit about this and how you guys go about educating employees.
So we have several forms. We obviously do some on-site trainings. We have a myriad of, weekly security short videos that go out to our clients, annual cybersecurity training, where everyone's graded. And so management can see, where their staff is at and if there's an opportunity for more training somewhere. But it really comes down to education is number one. Even if you're going to implement all the security policies, if you're not training your staff on what those changes are, you're causing yourself an infinite number of problems. FBI has said recently that 95% of all ransomware attacks are coming from emails or a link that shouldn't be clicked on. Uh, and training is really the only way to prevent that, right? So we can have all the security in the world, and we can catch things after they've been clicked on. But that initial point of entry is extremely dangerous, and the only way to confront it is with constant updated training for employees and staff.
Sure, it's it takes 2 seconds to click a link, maybe even one, but and all of a sudden you've got a world of problems on your hands. So the education obviously is a big prevention element of it. You had mentioned earlier, the dark web and ransomware that can play a role in this whole cybersecurity conversation. Talk to me a little bit about how your company, Innovative Technologies, handles dark web scans as kind of a starting point for some of the small businesses you work with.
So, dark web scans at this point are a necessity in my mind. Really, they should be done on a very regular basis. Clients that are on any of our managed services plan, we're doing that daily. And basically, what we're doing is scanning. We're using multiple tools to scan all of the dark web locations where your data could be sold. And basically, that returns us your email address, any personal information that was identified with that email address, including passwords. And it's usually a first step because when we first start speaking with a prospect, it comes down to what's your current situation. And the dark web scan is really the first step in that, because we initially need to know exactly what your biggest threats are. And if your email passwords are out on the dark web, that needs to be immediately addressed.
Absolutely. And Paul, a big part of this conversation, it really comes down to just knowledge as a whole. I feel like you're going through your conversations with clients, and what we had just talked about, employee education, but really you guys over at Innovative Technologies, you guys go through this process of really trying to just touch the entire culture of a given business and really infuse that level of integrated cybersecurity knowledge as a whole. Walk me through why it is you guys feel so strongly about really getting into the core of a small business and helping everybody have this foundational knowledge of cybersecurity from the get-go. Why is this so important?
I think it touches every aspect of your business, right? So when you put security in place, one of the first things we do in an assessment is identify where your information is stored, right? Where do we have email addresses, social security numbers, credit card numbers, those kind of things. And on that initial assessment, we always find the same thing. And that is that companies really don't know where all that data is stored. They know the main place that it's supposed to be stored, but we always end up finding download folders, other shared folders that have that information. And so what we're really doing in that assessment is helping you not only become secure, but we're helping you streamline your information flow within your business. And we run everything on a zero trust policy. So let's say you have a secretary and you have some nurses. The things that the nurses need access to is not the same thing that the secretaries need access to. And so identifying where that data lies, how it's being handled, and addressing those workflows increases efficiency exponentially over time. And it's simply a product of putting the security measures in place.
I mean, it's just that foundational knowledge that just breeds better practices for a given company. So it's really that, grassroots kind of effort to revitalize or to reinforce, just best practices as a whole when it comes to cybersecurity knowledge. And that is a super important part of what you guys do. And so I appreciate you kind of walking me through why it is so important and why you guys have a heavy focus on that specifically. And in kind of that same vein of that conversation, Paul, you guys have a firm belief over at Innovative Technologies that your relationship with your IT individual should be the same as your relationship with your best friend, meaning that you should be able to be brutally honest with one another. Talk to me about why you guys have this, which I love this mantra. Why do you guys have this in place?
So that really came about from all the difficult conversations that I first had when we went into market with our security plans. And so, um, I have a best friend. I'll call him Kyle because that's his name. And we've been friends since we were children. And so when I look at my business and my relationship with my clients, I kind of relate back to that. We've been friends for years, and there's been years in between where we just didn't speak. And the thing with best friends is they can tell you things that no one else can tell you, right? They can tell you the hard truths that you need to hear at the time you need to hear them. And so for me, and the reason why I mentioned Kyle is we had one of those conversations, and it actually led to me losing 120 pounds. And so I look at that in the same vein that I look with my clients. There's a lot of people out there that will take a sale. We don't want the security package. We just want the bare minimum that we think we need to have. And that's just not a right fit for us. There has to be a conversation. No, you need to do this. And those conversations are difficult.
Absolutely. And when it comes to the overall security and infrastructure of your business, I mean, this is not something you want to necessarily cut corners on, is it, Paul? You want to make sure that you're putting in all your time, your energy, your effort to reinforcing the security knowledge, making sure your systems are up to date and ahead of the latest and greatest technology, if you can be, that is. But, there's just a lot to consider within this. And I love that mantra that you guys, you have baked into your company, and that you really do need to be brutally honest with your IT service provider, and vice versa, you guys with your clients. Paul, just switching gears very slightly, you've been featured in a few publications here. I know in fact, one of your books that you've already written, it's already been published, Delete the Hacker Playbook. It's available. I would love to hear, kind of summarize this book as a whole. And then I know you've got a few other, publications that you're working on that are going to be released here in a bit, but walk me through this book that's already been published and what kind of information lies within it. And this is the book, Delete the Hacker Playbook.
So really what this came out of was some extremely long meetings over and over again, discussing topics, what are cloud services? What are hackers actually doing? What is a phishing scam? Because what we found is even though people are seeing these stories on the news, the general business owner didn't seem to have what we consider to be enough knowledge to be adequately defending themselves. And so I put the book together as a general overview of, these are what the services are. These are the dangers that we have, just to familiarize people. A lot of the issues, we always say no tech speak. And it becomes problematic. There's so many definitions and different acronyms in tech. And so just wanted to give business owners that base knowledge of these are the things that we're discussing, and these are the reasons why they're important. So there's a lot of great information in there.
Sure. And Paul, I was just going to ask, if there's a business owner watching this, listening to this right now, where might they be able to find this book so that they could access this kind of information?
So it's great that you asked that. Because I have a new book coming out, we're giving away the old book on our website. So at upstatetechsupport.com/cybersecurity book, they can download the PDF version of Delete the Hacker Playbook, and they will also get, the updates for my new upcoming book.
Very cool. Very cool. So and your upcoming book titled Cyberstorm, walk me through what you're trying to accomplish with this new book.
It's a much deeper dive. It's a co-authored book. And so there's several experts that were asked to weigh in and author this book to really give some detailed information. I get in a real deep dive into HIPAA compliance and what that means, not only for covered entities, but for all the businesses that deal with medical associations, even medical billing, where that compliance overlaps.
Gotcha. Now, I mean, because that is a whole other world to really kind of dive into and explore. So, we'll keep our eyes peeled for that one. Again, release date coming in early 2022, it sounds like, for Cyberstorm. Paul, if anybody is listening to our conversation today, maybe it's a business owner that exists up in, in your upstate New York region, or right around the Malta, New York, where you guys are headquartered, and they're interested in anything that we had talked about, whether it be your company, maybe a dark web scan, anything that, could really drive their business forward and help bolster their current cybersecurity strategies and plans. How could they go about getting in touch with you, looking you guys up? What's the best method to get on the phone with Paul and to try and schedule something?
Pretty simple. Just pick up the phone. The number is 518-900-7004, and schedule a 10-minute discovery call with me. During that call, we can get a dark web scan done, and actually have something meaningful for you, so that if you do have credentials on the dark web, we can identify that and you can change those passwords right away. And we can take a look at where you stand in terms of your cybersecurity.
I love that. So a nice thorough discovery meeting with you, just by picking up the phone. Paul, throughout our conversation on cybersecurity, compliance, everything that you guys do at Innovative Technologies, was there anything I didn't ask you about that you wanted to make sure that you shared with our audience today?
I don't believe so.
Not to put you on the spot or anything. No, I just want to make sure, of course, you guys do a lot of great work in this cybersecurity space. You have a lot of great relationships with small businesses in upstate New York, and your reviews, your company experiences, they speak for themselves. So keep up the great work, Paul. Really appreciate you taking some time to share, your industry insights, what you guys do over at Innovative Technologies. And then, actually, I'll tell you what, Paul, I do have one final question, and it really is a kind of a backbone, really, of the show, and that's the differentiating factors. What is it that makes you guys so unique from other MSPs in the area, in the country, maybe even in the world? Why should somebody be working with you?
I really think it comes down to the community aspect and the best friend approach that we take to IT. Everyone who's a client of ours is honestly held to a higher standard than most folks are. We believe in those hard conversations, but we believe in them to keep your business running. And I honestly feel it's a community effort. All of our businesses are connected, and I think in the last year we've absolutely learned what that means.
Sure.
And I just think it's the right approach.
Community effort, the best friend personality and mentality. I love that. Paul, you mentioned community effort. You guys do a handful of community service, working with some nonprofits. You guys, I think, do a few charity events. Do you have anything to share on this in this scope?
Certainly. So I come from a family background of service, military, healthcare, law enforcement, firefighters, you name it. Unfortunately, those things weren't really for me. And so I try to play my part in that community service where I can. Mm-hmm. It's vital in my mind to keep things going. I went to school at a small place called South Glens Falls High School. And we did a thing there called the marathon dance, where every year we dance for 24 hours and raise money for a local charity. And that's really stayed with me since then. I've run several musical charity events for cancer. I've been a part recently of an event for St. Jude's that raised $1.5 million. So it's something I'm proud of and continue to do.
Well, we appreciate you, giving back to your community. It's always such an important element within business as a whole. Not only forging those great relationships with small businesses and your clients, but also finding ways to integrate your services back into the community in one shape or another. So tip of the cap to you and the team over at Innovative Technologies. But look, Paul, really appreciate you taking some time today to kind of peel back that curtain, share some of these differentiating factors as well as your industry expertise. And hey, I'm looking forward to when we have you back on the show already. Thanks so much today.
I appreciate it, Ryan. Thank you so much.
Alrighty, and look, hey, we want to take a moment to thank you, our audience, for tuning in to another episode of MSP Success Spotlight. As Paul just mentioned, you can feel free to give his offices a call at 518-900-704. Again, 518-900-7004. You can have a quick little discovery meeting with Paul. He'll go through, give you a free dark web scan to kind of see what exists in terms of your company out on the dark web and get that conversation started. So look, once again, we thank you for joining us here on the show today. For Paul Tracey, I'm Ryan Ruff, saying so long, and we thank you so much for joining us again once more on MSP Success Spotlight.